Welcome csc121. I'm going to review ex13 random polygons, hopefully to make this a little easier if you had any problems with it. And if you did have problems, you're probably just confused because the previous exercise that we worked with had parameters here, they had arguments that we were passing down here, and we don't have to do that in this exercise. This exercise, we're just creating variables and then we're passing them along. So it's actually going to be simpler. There's really only two functions that we're going to work with. We're going to draw a polygon one time, and we're just going to use a loop to create the sides, no matter how many sides we have. We could start off with a square for that matter. And then we're going to run random polygons. This is another function here, and all this function does is just runs the first function that many times. So this is just going to draw the polygon 20 times. And if we're already putting in a different color and a different size and a different shape, that's all of that's going to be built into here. So all that's going to be built in here. All that this is doing is it's going to run it 20 times, and this x and y is going to be set up so that it randomizes where it's going to start. So we typically do have to tell it to go to a new x and y. The one time we did it, we set new rows, and we went over 140 pixels or something like that. Then we went up 140, whatever it was. This one is just going to have a random start point somewhere in this range. So that's all that's going to happen there. So this isn't as hard as it might have seemed. And I think there was just some confusion with using arguments or parameters. And in this case, we don't have to use them. We're using variables. You can use both, but in this case, since they're random, we're creating them ahead of time. Let me start this from scratch, sort of. I have this started already, so I'll save some time here. But let me just review this here. I have import turtle, import random. So we have our import statements from modules. We're instantiating our turtle. We're calling him Tim. We're giving him a speed so it goes faster. Well, let me go back to here just so I can play. I didn't play what happens here. So here's that's kind of the finished product that we're looking for, something like that. And here, just to start, we're creating one function that's actually drawing a polygon. And I'm just setting up variables of length, angle, and sides that are actually going to create this. It's actually going to create, hopefully, a square. That's why I'm using 80, 90 for the angle, and 4 for the sides. And I'm going to do that first, just so we can show how to do that. So right now, if I created a call statement, and I should put T in here, and we're going to send Tim. Tim is the argument that we're going to pass, so that's the only thing we're going to pass in there. So right now, if we did that, we ran that, nothing's happening. Let's see why. Bad input line 11. I have this thing messed up. I started typing this in range. So for I in range sides, so do we have sides? Yeah, we have 4 sides. So let's run this again. And that's all it's doing. It's doing that. Now we don't have color in here yet. We don't have anything like that. But that's what it's actually doing. Even before we put in color, we could do this. And then I think in the end we do like a hide turtle. So we could even, after this is all through, we could throw a hide turtle. Since we put this in a function, we're going to use T in here. So that should do the same thing. And it's going really fast because we have the speed on 0. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit so we can see it be created a little bit. That's too slow. This is what's happening so far right now. But we're going to use this and we're going to make this happen a whole bunch of times. So that's all we have to do. Let's put a hide turtle so that turtle goes away at the end. We'll make sure we outdent it, or we make sure we make sure that we have this statement be at the same level of the function, not part of the for loop. I'm just going to do a t.hideTurtle, and then at the end the turtle will go away. Okay, so we have no fill color yet. We'll put that in. That's no big deal. Okay, so this is our one function. Now let's try to do this a whole bunch of times. So let's create another function. So I'm going to go right here on line 15, out at the margin. We'll make another one. We'll call it def draw polygons, or we'll call it random polygons. And we'll send t again. We have to put our colon, and then everything's indented in here. And all that's really going to happen in here is we're going to run this one 20 times. So let's just make our for loop for I in range 20. And then I'm just going to take this thing, I'll cut it, and paste it here, make sure I indent it over. And that's all that it's going to do. So it's just going to run that 20 times. Now if we ran it right now, it's going to do it over in the same place, and you wouldn't even see it. I mean, I could run it. Now to run it, since this one's built inside there, we're going to run another one, and we're going to say random polygons, and I'll just say Tim again. And now what's going to happen, it's going to do it, it's doing it 20 times. We can't even see it because it's gone. So but it's happening because you can see it didn't end yet, so we're going to stop it. So let's try and do it in multiple places. How do we do that? We actually made it so that it has a new X and a new Y, and we did that inside the for loop, so that every time the loop runs, it started at a new position. So if you're wondering, well, does it go outside of here? No, because then it would just start at one place and keep doing it 20 times in one place. So we need that as part of the for loop. So I'm going to go inside here, and I'm going to say X equals, and we'll do one for X and one for Y. So we're just going to do random.randint, and we could just do negative 200 and then comma, because this has to be the X and the Y, and positive 200. And then I'll just copy this and do the same thing for the Y. Now, we're not doing anything yet because we have to make it go to there. So we have to say t.goto, and we'll just say go to X and Y. And it's going to be doing this each time. When it goes to a different place, we don't want to have the pen up. So for example, let's just run it and just see what happens. See what it's doing? It's making those lines every time it goes somewhere. So it's actually working right now. It's making random locations of squares. That's actually what we want. Looks kind of neat, actually. It has the pen down, so it's connecting every time it goes. It's making a trail, so it looks really bizarre. So we got to get rid of that. So before it goes there, so that's just the change in where it's going to. We're going to do a t.up. We don't have to say pen up. We could just say up. And then after it goes there, after it's already there, and it starts drawing it, we'll say t.down, because that kind of puts its pen down so it could draw. Now, we didn't do begin fill and end fill, and that could be up here where it does the fill. So we could do that here. So now if we run this, it should just make squares. Actually, it looks like it's still doing that. T.up. There's no error here, but the reason it's not working is because if you happen to catch this, I didn't put my parentheses after that. That was an error that I made, so it wasn't really a syntax error, although it should have came up as a syntax error. But it just ignored it. So now that's actually what it's supposed to do. So this is really most of the way done, except we got to make sure it does a fill color, we got to make sure it changes the size and all that, and we know how to do that stuff already. So what we got to do is go up here, in here. Now that we have length as an absolute value of 80, but we could make length be a random number. Actually, let's do sides first and do that one, and we'll do random.randint. Now this is an easy one, because if we have a random number of sides, it's going to be between 3, which is a triangle, and 10, which is a decagon. We don't need to go any higher than that. And for our angle, again, remember that's going to be 360 divided by sides. Now, one thing we have to remember here, because we're doing multiplication with sides, that means sides should be first, because it'll come here and it'll say, well, we don't have a value for sides. You can see if we run the thing, I could leave that in there for now just so we see the error, but I could guarantee you that because we're doing multiplication or division with sides before sides is defined, it's going to have a problem with that. And what I did with length was actually, I created a random, to make a random length, I did something like this. I did a random int, like between 1 and 6, and then I just multiplied it by 10, so that it would be like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60. So we'll just get a number like that for the length. So that's actually what we want, and we have an error, and it's for sides, just like I said. It doesn't recognize sides yet because we defined it after it's actually being used. So I'll put that back here. I'll take this extra space out of here. Now I'll run it, and what it should do is actually, this is what we want. It's creating random polygons all over the place. We just didn't fill them yet. So that's just one more thing we have to do. So see, that's not that hard. We just need a random fill color, and we already have, well, we don't have it, but I'll just copy it. No need to. Here's our color list. Here's a color list right here, and you can make your own color list. And I'll put a color list up here, and wherever you put it, it has to be before this. That's why down there, you know, you might think, well, why is it way down at the bottom? We could put it up here. We could set this here and put the color list there. Now, to apply the color, we could put this right in here before it even starts. Now, we also are going to have a begin fill and end fill. Whenever we kind of fill this thing, we're going to have a begin fill and end fill. And if you remember, that was actually here. That was actually before the loop. So we're going to do a begin fill, and then after we'll have an end fill, and then we'll hide it. That will not be in the loop, and this will be end fill. And along with that, we're going to need a color, and we're going to do a random. So this will be actually not that hard. We can actually go right in here and say color equals random.choice, and we could pull it from color list. So that'll pull a random color from here. Now we still have to apply it. So we'll apply it right after we do the begin fill. Actually, we should do it right before. And we could just apply a color to the turtle. So we could just go t.color, that's the color attribute, and it would just get color. It's pulling it from the list, and here it's being applied. So this is the variable that represents the random color from that list, and here is the attribute that's actually applying it. And now if I run it, let's see what happens, see if we get an error, see if it works. And it works. It wasn't that hard. It was just a matter of wiping out all the parameters and arguments and just using variables in here that we already knew how to set up. And some of these, you could do them in separate steps, or you could do them all together. I did them all together here. The random int 1, if you wanted to make them bigger, you could do 1 through 10 or whatever. Or you could start at 2, and that way you wouldn't have ones this small. But either way, that's it. Not a lot of code. It's probably less code than some of the other ones that we worked on. We don't have any loops inside of loops. So that's EX13. Hopefully that helped a little bit to get you through that. Again, just 2 functions. The one function is getting run 20 times or as many times as you want in here. So that's all that's really happening.